Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back. So, Pokemon Legends Arceus released today, and at midnight we streamed it for over 5 hours, about 5.5. That said, I definitely wanted to make a video going over my initial thoughts because, like I stated in the Pokemon community is so divided over this game video, there's a lot of people going into this game either expecting it to be amazing or think it's going to be terrible, and I wanted to give you guys my honest thoughts as someone going into it who was pretty neutral. Anyways, I have not been a fan of any of the Pokemon games on Switch, and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon kind of rubbed me the wrong way, with it being far too similar to its predecessors. So on that note, I am able to empathize with those who were apprehensive towards the title because of past installments. Going into the game, I did see a lot of the leaks, and I hadn't seen it all, but I saw enough, and I had also seen some gameplay which genuinely intrigued me. The way Pokemon has decided to actually take some risks did give me some hope, so it kind of ended up balancing itself out. I have no agenda going into this game. Some content creators will be ragging on it because they said it was going to be bad, so they want to stay consistent. Other content creators will suck the game off because if everybody just starts hating Pokemon, they might be out of a job, and perhaps they also said it was good, so they want to stay consistent on that point, and that's just not my style. Firstly, I'm not a PokeTuber. I cover the monster taming genre, which is a genre of games that include Pokemon but is not limited to it. There are a ton of games that involve capturing monsters, some of which even predate and inspired Pokemon, and whether or not I personally think this game is good or bad will not have a major impact on my channel. If the game is bad, then more people will try other monster taming games, thus bringing more traffic towards my channel. If the game is good and I enjoy it, it'll motivate me to make content about it, which again will bring traffic to my channel. So either way, I don't really have a stake in this. If Pokemon just stopped making games tomorrow, I'd still pretty much be in the same position as I am now. So I think if you are looking for a genuine first impression from someone who went into it pretty mildly and has been a fan of Pokemon since Pokemon Red, this is a right place to be. Anyways, all of that said, sorry for the long intro, but I do think that information was extremely relevant going in. But with all that, let's do it. Okay, so obviously this is not a full-fledged review. This is a first impressions video, so I can't speak to the end of the game or probably even the mid-game. We've put about 5.5 hours into it, and I'm currently still playing it more as we speak. If my current opinions change, I will definitely follow up in another video, and I will be doing a review once I've beaten the game as well, so you could definitely stay tuned for that. That said, and I don't take this lightly, I am personally enjoying the game so far. I don't agree with the 9 out of 10 scores that the game journalists are giving the game. I oftentimes don't agree with a lot of what the game journalists say because I feel like they just give certain games special treatments in order to get good with the companies, but I'm having fun for the first time in a while, and I would not go as far as to say I'm having more fun than Pokemon than I ever did, but I'm definitely having fun for the first time in quite a while. Now, it is important to note that this game does have turn-based elements, but does play differently to previous Pokemon titles, so making a one-to-one comparison isn't entirely fair because if you are someone who enjoys action combat, the game does have a little bit of that with the dodging mechanic and how certain bosses play out, so you might have more fun with the game just because of the change to the formula, so it's not entirely fair to compare them as if they were the same experience. So the enjoyment factor is going to be skewed depending on who you talk to. Anyways, I think the capture mechanic actually works pretty well, and it did surprise me. I was almost entirely sure that I wasn't going to like it. The idea of just throwing Pokeballs at Pokemon aimlessly and catching everything and running around an almost empty world didn't feel like something that I would enjoy. I mean, I didn't like the capture mechanic in Let's Go, and sure, this is in real time, but it's kind of similar. You just throw a Pokeball, right? But after actually playing it and exploring and catching different Pokemon that are available, I've actually got to say it's pretty fun, and the Pokemon just don't go instantly into the ball. You have to battle them in some cases, and yeah, you can sneak up on them, but it's more difficult than it seems and provides a fun experience. Running into alpha Pokemon is also pretty exciting, and the element of the Pokemon being able to actually attack you is quite nice. Character models and Pokemon themselves are actually more expressive in this game, not up to what I'd consider the standard for a company as large as the Pokemon company, but as a standalone game, it's pretty decent. One example is Onix, which kind of just passes out, and the characters actually have facial expressions, which is good. The game, of course, graphically isn't the most impressive game I've ever seen. In fact, it does look outdated. However, I do think people are exaggerating when they say it looks like an N64 game. As I stated in our stream, Mario was a friggin' triangle in Mario 64. And I love Mario 64. The graphics don't bug me at all. But the game, sure, it looks outdated, but I think calling it an N64 game is exaggerating. But yeah, there are issues. There's this one area that's supposed to be mud that I thought was lava because of the bad texture, but I would say all in all, it is more consistent than Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield had different textures all over the place, and some areas in that game even looked really nice, and some areas looked terrible, but I think this game is a lot more consistent and the textures fit better, even if they're not always done well. There's also frame rate issues with Pokemon that are very far away, which, by the way, major popping issues are gone from Sword and Shield, which I'm definitely happy about, because in that game, going on your bike makes you miss NPCs. But I know a lot of people are going to rag on this aspect, but if you check out SMT5, you're going to find the same issues with certain enemies, and even Monster Hunter Stories 2 does have this, albeit I think that game does it the best, but it's not flawless. Speaking of which, I think two games that do actually make a good comparison are SMT5 and Monster Hunter Stories 2. Personally, from my first 5 hours, I did enjoy the other two games more, but as I'm playing and getting into more areas, there's a lot more that I'm starting to enjoy now that I have some freedom. Legends Arceus does not feel like this huge, massive step down from those games, even though I will say those games do have more expressive models, better graphics, and so far a more engaging story, at least at the beginning. Legends does have an issue with tutorials taking a little longer than I'd like, especially right at the beginning of the game. You're going to spend basically an hour just going through tutorials. But once you do finally get your freedom, you're free. You can do what you want. There are main quests, side quests, and pretty much everything revolves around catching and battling Pokemon, which at first I thought would be kind of boring, but so far, and again, this could change, is not. The world that I've explored thus far, which is the first two main areas, don't have much going on other than some places where you can grab some crafting items and battle and catch Pokemon, and I definitely like to see them add more to the world to make it feel more full, but it's a huge step up from the wild area. The story in and of itself, while not dark or edgy or anything like that, does have some mature tones that I really didn't think they'd actually dive into in a Pokemon game. The characters also straight up say that you can get killed by the Pokemon, and this is another dynamic that goes against the more modern Pokemon idea where they're your buddies and you gotta be friends. Friendship is still a thing, but it's definitely refreshing to see the more hostile side of Pokemon. The game also lets you craft different types of Pokeballs, which work differently depending on what they are. For example, regular Pokeballs are just regular, then you have heavy balls that can't be thrown as far but give you a higher catch rate, etc. There's also noble battles, which mix the roll dodging mechanic and the turn-based battles quite nicely, and have you almost partake in third-person shooting elements where you have to throw a bunch of food at these noble monsters to calm them down. Meanwhile, you have to dodge their attacks, and when they're stunned, fight them in a regular battle. It's not super hard by any means, and I'll get to difficulty in a second, but it's definitely a change of pace that I'm quite happy about. Now, the game does have a couple issues in terms of difficulty and how it goes about leveling up, but I will say it's not nearly as much of an issue as it was in previous titles. In fact, despite the fact that there is a forced experience share, it functions a lot better and allows you to actually go out and stop and catch stuff without being over leveled. You get experience pretty much from doing everything, from battling to catching to even hitting trees, but despite all of this, there are always Pokemon that are stronger than you, and I never felt over leveled. Another thing that the game actually fixes from Sword and Shield, which is an issue that I think was a big deal, was finding strong Pokemon in the wild area. Finding a level 35 Onix when you're level 5 is not a challenge, but a one-sided slugfest. That's not an issue here because you can sneak up on the Pokemon, dodge their attacks, and try to catch them, or if you do fight them, you can utilize an agile style, and even if all your Pokemon are knocked out, you don't black out and you still get a chance to get away. There are ways to capture these higher level Pokemon. All of the game's battles also happen right on the field, which both SMT and Monster Hunter Stories don't actually do, and I think that this should be the norm. Recent Pokemon games have these weird voids, and I hate them. But anyways, this was supposed to be a short video. I really just wanted to get my thoughts out because I do think that while the game's not perfect so far, and the combat, which I didn't really touch on too much because I would like to make a dedicated video on, is different and I don't think very conducive to a PvP environment like we see in main series games, there are still aspects from this game that I really want to see make it into Generation 9. And as we know, sales can induce change. I'm not saying to go buy this game, and I'm not saying not to go buy this game. I'm saying this game is not Sword and Shield, and it's not BDSP. If you're someone who didn't like those games, I totally understand your apprehension, and I just wanted to say I'm personally still enjoying it. If you are someone who has enjoyed the last two Pokemon games, you'll probably enjoy these too. You might have some issues with the lack of linearity, especially if you're someone who enjoyed Sword and Shield, but I think it's fun. But But yeah, all in all, I guess I'm still taking what I'd consider a more moderate approach to the game. The game has its flaws, but also has aspects to it that make it decent or even good. So far, it's not a bad game, and while I wouldn't say it's better than some of the other AAA games we've gotten that are in the same vein, I think it's a step in the right direction. I do hope that you got something out of this video. I think too many people are over-exaggerating how bad or good certain aspects of this game are, and my goal as a content creator and as someone who covers this genre as a whole and has experience with other games that are similar is to give you guys an honest approach, and I've got to say, I was honestly pleasantly surprised. That said, if you are a fan of Pokemon and are looking for someone who's just going to kind of tell you how they feel about things, no sugarcoating certain aspects, or if you're just a fan of monster taming in general, definitely subscribe to the channel. I put out new videos every single day. You can also check out my Twitter and my Discord, which will be linked below. And special thanks to all my patrons, especially Dark Persona, StealCase, and Jim Hamilton. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.